There was no audience, no cameras, no choreographed fight scene, just a quiet training hall, and two of the most dangerous martial artists of their generation. It started with a sentence. "You're just an actor." The words weren't shouted, they were calm, direct, almost analytical. But everyone in the room felt the weight of them, because the man who said it was already a tournament champion, and the man standing in front of him was about to change how that room understood speed. Forever. 5 seconds later, no one spoke. Not out of embarrassment, out of realization. The year was the late 1960s. Hollywood was beginning to notice Bruce Lee. But inside serious martial arts circles, he was still viewed with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. The location wasn't a movie set. It was a private training facility, a place where elite fighters met to test ideas, refine technique, and exchange skill. No scripts, no dramatic soundtracks, just hardwood floors, heavy bags, and the sound of controlled breathing. A handful of respected martial artists were present that day, men who had competed in real tournaments and understood what worked under pressure. Among them stood Chuck Norris, already recognized for his karate championships, already known for discipline and precision. This wasn't rivalry for publicity. This was something more subtle. 2 philosophies, 2 reputations, 1 quiet room, and a single sentence. That would test both. By the time this moment happened, Chuck Norris was not a newcomer. He was already a disciplined tournament competitor, a man whose karate victories were earned, not gifted. Multiple championship titles, years of structured training, a fighter known for precision, composure, and control under pressure. He wasn't loud, he wasn't theatrical. He was methodical. 6 feet tall, solid frame, balanced stance that revealed years of repetition. When Chuck stepped onto a training floor, people noticed, not because he demanded attention, but because he carried certainty. Inside competitive circuits, he had proven himself against real opponents, real impact, real stakes. And in rooms filled with martial artists, that kind of credibility mattered. He respected skill, but he also questioned hype. And at that time, Bruce Lee was beginning to attract attention from Hollywood. Fast hands, fluid movement, charismatic presence. Impressive, yes. But to many traditional competitors, there was still a question hanging in the air. Was he a fighter, or was he an entertainer? That question wasn't disrespect. It was skepticism. And in a room built on earned reputation, skepticism had weight. Bruce Lee stood only a few feet away, smaller in frame, less decorated in tournament records, already stepping into film work. On paper, he looked different. But presence doesn't live on paper. Bruce didn't posture, didn't argue, didn't defend his reputation. He listened. Hands relaxed at his sides, breathing steady, eyes observant. What made him different wasn't volume, it was stillness. He didn't carry the rigid structure of traditional systems. He moved with looseness, a fluidity that felt almost informal. To some, that looked unorthodox. To others, it looked unpredictable. Bruce had been refining something different, a philosophy built around efficiency, interception, economy of motion. He wasn't interested in performing techniques. He was interested in eliminating wasted movement. But in that room, the distinction wasn't yet obvious, because skill untested still invites doubt, and the doubt was about to surface, out loud. The exchange didn't begin with aggression. It began with observation. Chuck watched Bruce move through a short demonstration. Simple drills, fluid transitions, relaxed speed. No exaggerated power, no rigid stances, just efficiency. After a moment, Chuck spoke, not loudly, not mockingly. "You move well," he said evenly. A short pause. But film speed and fighting speed aren't the same. The room didn't react loudly, but everyone heard it. It wasn't an insult, it was a challenge wrapped in logic. Bruce looked at him calmly. "They can be," he replied. "If movement is honest." Chuck crossed his arms slightly. "On camera," he said, "you control distance, timing, angle." He stepped a little closer. "In competition, someone else controls those." Another short pause. Then came the sentence. Not shouted, not emotional, just direct. "You're just an actor." The words weren't meant to humiliate. They were meant to test. In that room, reputations weren't built on charisma. They were built on proof. Several martial artists nearby shifted slightly, not out of hostility, but anticipation. Because now the question wasn't theoretical anymore. It was personal. Bruce didn't react immediately. No defensive explanation. No ego response. He stepped slightly to the side and adjusted his stance naturally. "An actor learns timing," he said quietly. "A fighter survives by it." Chuck studied him. He wasn't trying to embarrass Bruce. He was trying to understand him. But skepticism still lingered. "In a tournament," Chuck said calmly, "you don't get second takes." Bruce nodded once. "That's why you don't wait," he replied. The air in the room shifted subtly. The other fighters weren't speaking now. They were observing. Two different philosophies standing face to face. Traditional structure versus adaptive flow. Chuck lowered his arms. "If you believe that," he said, "show me." There was no crowd chanting, no dramatic energy, just quiet expectation. Because now the room understood. This wouldn't be a fight for dominance. It would be a demonstration of reality. And what happened next would last only 5 seconds. But it would answer the question more clearly than words ever could. Chuck stepped forward first, not recklessly, not aggressively, just decisively. A clean forward entry, structured stance, balanced posture. The movement of someone trained in controlled competition. He initiated with a quick probing strike, not full force. Testing range. Before the motion fully completed, Bruce shifted. Not dramatically, just a subtle change of angle. To most watching, it looked as if Chuck's line of attack had dissolved into empty space. Then Bruce moved. No wind-up. No visible tension. His lead hand intercepted mid-motion, redirecting the strike rather than blocking it. In the same breath, he stepped inside the center line. What followed wasn't a flurry. It was economy. A rapid sequence of controlled counters flowed toward openings that appeared and vanished almost instantly. One near the ribs, one near the jaw, one hovering just short of the throat. Each one precise. Each one halted inches from impact. Chuck adjusted quickly. He was no novice. But for a brief moment, he found himself reacting, instead of initiating. And in high-level combat, that shift matters. Bruce pivoted once more, balanced perfectly. Then stopped. 5 seconds. That was all. No one fell. No one was injured. But the exchange had been clear. Chuck stepped back slightly, resetting his posture. Not shocked, not embarrassed, just recalibrating. And the room remained silent. Because everyone present understood what they had just seen. Speed was not the only factor. It was timing, interception, efficiency. Bruce hadn't overpowered a champion. He had interrupted him. Chuck inhaled slowly, then gave a small nod. Not forced, not performative. Acknowledgement. "That's fast," he said evenly. Bruce didn't smile. "It's not speed," he replied. "It's no wasted motion." A faint shift of energy passed through the room. There was no hostility now, only clarity. Chuck stepped closer again, this time without challenge. "You're not just acting," he said calmly. It wasn't an apology. It was recognition. Two competitors standing on equal ground, different systems, different paths, but both real. Years later, people would speculate about rivalries, about ego, about who was better. But the truth of that moment was quieter. It wasn't about dominance. It was about understanding. Because in 5 seconds, inside a room filled with serious martial artists, One assumption had dissolved. Bruce Lee wasn't just performing movement, he was refining it. And Chuck Norris, a champion in his own right, recognized that immediately. No applause followed, no announcement, just two martial artists who understood that real skill doesn't need noise, only proof. And sometimes, 5 seconds is enough.